Hello, class. This is a lesson on Chapter 7, Evaluation or Review. Would you recommend it? We are moving along to go from writing about ourselves to writing about other things. And we do that with assignments like our commercial comparison, which we're looking on. That's an analysis. And then we're moving to criticism, which is review. So to kind of help you out and see the bigger picture, I'm going to show you this thing called Bloom's taxonomy. And it's what we use in education to kind of think about the order in how we present things. So we start off by learning through remembering, then understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and then creating. And you can see this wonderful list that shows all these things. Any discipline, we start out by learning the basics, remembering the facts, and being able to understand the concepts. And then we demonstrate that understanding by showing how to define or identify them or classify, all the very basic multiple choice type questions you would have. After that, it's implementation by application. So, how do you use things? For most of us, in writing classes, it's writing. Can we write using our understanding of these things? So when we learn to read or write, we learn how to spell words, how they're spelled, two, three-letter words. Then we start putting them together with other words and start to apply that those phonics rules to how we sound out words and how we spell them. Then we can start to look at sentences and put those together in paragraphs and papers and eventually start to read other things and say, well, this is what it means. And that's where analysis is differentiating, organizing, relating, comparing, contrasting, examine, question, to test. So it's not just accepting something, but trying to understand it. And so when we look at things through the rhetorical situations, we're doing analysis. We're looking at, well, why was this written? Who is it written for? How is it an effective piece? Then we move into evaluation, where we appraise, argue, defend, judge, support, value, critique, or weigh. And that's saying this is good, this is bad, here's why. Whereas analysis might say, here's what it's doing. And then we look at evaluation, whether or not it's doing it well. Then finally, creation, where we do our own things, um, using the tools that we've learned way down here to make something. So that's what I wanted to kind of show you because we're working on this comparison of two commercials for two different colleges. And that helps us demonstrate what we understand and the impact of it. But then the next week, we're moving on to evaluation or criticism. And I'll say this all the time, we are good evaluators, good reviewers. We can review movies and we can say it's good or bad, and we can probably explain why. And so we know that an evaluation is based on things like criteria that we've set up. And we say, oh, I don't like it because it has too much action or too much kissing or whatever. But we have that criteria that we've set up. It's difficult for us to want to evaluate things that we don't have much expertise in or things that might be above, we'll say, our pay grade, like, evaluating a piece of writing as an English teacher. Well, we might not feel like we have that ability, but you kind of do, right? Because you've been writing for a while. So we have to be aware of identifying the rhetorical elements and then saying, well, it does it well or it doesn't do it well. So throughout our learning, we're going to focus on how we differentiate the different types of evaluation or reviewing. So in school, sorry, I gotta go back one. It's the academy. Is it reliable? How do we know? That's one way of evaluating something. Would you recommend something to someone else, a movie or restaurant? Why or why not? We might have different reasons. Or in workplace. Um, should my supervisee be considered for a new position, right? So we evaluate, we weigh things, compare strengths and weaknesses, compare and contrast. So we analyze, then we evaluate based on what we've understood. So here, this slide I think is important. It's an evaluation is an opinion, but it's based on the evidence. So when you have a paper graded, it's usually based on a rubric or what it's supposed to be. So you might have a good paper, but it doesn't mean it's a good result of that assignment. And there's kind of a difference. And that's those are some of the things we can start to think about. Think about music. You might recognize something's a good song, but you don't like it, that sort of stuff. So, evidence helps persuade. So we're writing for an audience. We might persuade them, say, well, you probably wouldn't like this, or this isn't very good because, well, it didn't cite credible sources. Or, if we're helping people choose a restaurant through a review. I found the food bland, but I enjoy spicy food. So we look at the relevance of things. It was really hot, but if you like that sort of thing, it's good. Critics, which you are, evaluators, reviewers, so we make these judgments professionally. You know, what type of genre is it? What's contributing to it? What are they doing to help us understand that they know what it is? That sort of stuff. Um, when we do criticisms, we should avoid what it should be. And so as we move to evaluations, I'll have a lot of people that will say, well, this author should have done these things. The paper was already written. You can't go back and change it. So instead, you say, well, here's what it is doing, and here's what it was trying to do, but here's how it failed or succeeded. Maintain an objectivity and give examples to show up your assessment. So these are important things when you write a review. Other important things is that you want to make sure that you're focused on something in particular. Good reviews don't necessarily try to cover everything, but they highlight key aspects. You want to have um, a good judgment where it's not just I hated it, but here's why. Um, Good things, bad things, that sort of stuff. And then provide that evidence. Specific evidence when we review, usually we're looking at primary sources. I saw this, this is what I thought, but you might also look at what others are saying or do some research through secondary sources. In addition, when we review, you can maintain a tone. So we are going to be doing a critique of the next essay that we're reading, which is 2 years are better than four by, oh, I'm forgetting her name at the moment. I'm sorry. It's Addison is her last name. And we'll be reading this essay. She's very snarky and it's kind of entertaining to read. And so you could do your own snarky or sarcastic review of it to mimic that. So those are things to think about. Um, this slide here talks about criteria. And so, if you want to critique something, what is the criteria that you would use to critique a smartphone or an academic source or a film, things like that. Those are things that we want to think about. And based on what do we use comparison? Well, the newest iPhone's camera is a lot better than the old one. Well, we would hope, right? That sort of thing. And that helps us let us know it's good. In addition, we want to think about the genres that we are reading. So you wouldn't go to a horror movie and then judge it based on uh, comedy or romance. There wasn't any laughs in this horror movie or things like that. So you have to make sure it's appropriate. So similarly, we have to figure out what genre something is. So when we read David Zinchenko's Don't Blame the Eater, that was an opinion piece. So we have to understand what genre that is. An opinion piece, they're generally shorter, they're to the point, and they're making an argument that's supposed to be effective, that sort of thing. So we can't say, well, he didn't cite five sources. Well, he can't do that in this short amount of writing that he needs to do. When we think critically in our review, we want to try to say something interesting about what we're talking about. We don't just say, uh, like say our college comparison essay, our commercial comparison. We don't want to say like, there's two commercials. They show both good things and bad things. That's not interesting. That's not boring. You might rephrase it as these two colleges have different views on what the college experience is. And this matters because they're trying to attract a specific type of student. So being specific, and then an overall judgment about the subject with appropriate um, primary sources, which would be your explanation of the source or what you're reviewing, and then any additional research. So we will also look at context, historical and cultural. So when we looked at David Zinzico's essay, it's from 2002. How up to date is it? When we looked at Should Everyone Go to College, it is an older essay as well. Is it still relevant? And those things are important. And when we read 2 years are better than four, we'll have to understand some of the context that she is talking about because she's talking about another piece and she's critiquing another article. So we need to understand the context of that article. A lot of things to think about. I'm going to skip this other lens. So when we write a review, we want to make sure that we name our source and the genre, brainstorm the genre itself, think about the characteristics, and maybe it's a subgenre, and then focus on some various characteristics. So when you read an opinion piece, does it give a clear opinion? Does it give support? Does it consider other sides? Is it long enough? Is the tone appropriate? Those things might be important. And then it talks about, you know, giving an example of movies to help us understand things like that. Um, Last tips are once you've taken your notes, try to have vivid, detailed descriptions, quote applicable dialogue or whatever it is that we're reading, and then think about the things that appeal to you because maybe they'll appeal to your readers. Consider your not your anger, your angle for your analysis. What is it that you want to say? And so this is where we start to practice our thesis, and we'll have another student toolkit for you to look at. But you could write something like, "What I want readers to understand is this," from your paper. How do you provide those examples, know your main argument, and then can you put together a thesis? And then think about how you organize your points. Maybe create an outline of your paper that will help keep you organized. And then, we have effective parts of review and introduction to get attention. Explain what you're reviewing, so always the title and author, just like we do in Sark Notes, and present your main idea, your claim, or your thesis. Then you'll have your supporting details. That will then lead to a conclusion, which kind of summarizes your main ideas again and rephrases your thesis and makes a recommendation. You should read this or not read it, watch it, not watch it. Um, so we'll skip over these things. Last thing is looking at some quotations. I also have in week 5 a link to some quotation lessons from, I think, the Little Seagull Handbook. But when we use quotations, we want to make sure that we are quoting things appropriate, that we're keeping them short, that they add credibility, that they're effective, that they're not too long. We're not like quoting, an entire paragraph, but one line or two, but we describe what it is that we are quoting. Um, and then I don't think we need to look at that. So anyway, so that's a little overview of chapter 7, things to think about as we start reading and working on our next assignment. So there's a lot of things that we have to keep going in our head, and I hope this lesson is a little bit helpful. So thank you.